Hi there, welcome to Vechain Wyckoff Technical Analysis session. So Vechain, while it seems to have stabilized, is obviously being suppressed by the previous uptrend support line. And in terms of Wyckoff stage, it looks like it's at least at a mid-late stage of an accumulation cycle. So let's see what the weekly and daily charts are telling us. And if you're new to my sessions, these are the key takeaways that you can expect. So basically, what are the current and potential next Wyckoff stages, and the key price levels where the price will find support or resistance, and also any breakout timing that the charts are indicating. This is the weekly chart, and previously we talked about there was a 20% chance of a spring, but then it already happened, so it's time to take it out and officially put this in. And if you look at the patterns over here, what we had back in 2024, we had the selling climax around June, like late June, end of June, early July. And this year we had our selling climax somewhere in April, and then subsequent tests period all the way into September, and our subsequent test period into July, and eventually the spring happened end of October. We are in mid-October right now, so the pattern seems really close, just that we are having a longer accumulation period for Vechain. Last time, from the selling climax to the end of the spring, that's around 119 days, roughly like 4 months time. This time, from the selling climax to where we are now, it's already almost 200 days, basically around 7 months. So almost double the cycle we had back in 2024. And not that it's the longest accumulation cycle. If you're not new to crypto, you know like the 22 to 23 period was a bit crazy. From the beginning to the end of the accumulation, that's almost 500 days. And we are only less than half of that, if that's really something that's repeating again. And also our current level is not as deep as what we had back then as well, but we are not too far from it, so be really careful, because there's a chance for the price to come below this center line of the white box of around 1 cent 80, all the way to 1 cent 50, this red key level. So be cautious what's going to come. And in terms of the price actions, we can see the price found support from this white key level of 1 cent 80, and found resistance from this uptrend support line that previously we have been referring to since mid-June. So that's the current situation of Vechain. Basically, the bulls and bears are still battling, but there is a bigger and bigger jaw for them to play with if that line's effect continues like in future. So let's quickly check the Bollinger Band and Kernel squeeze as well. With all that had happened last Friday, we still continue with the squeeze. So the squeeze, if you're not familiar with this Bollinger Band Kernel squeeze, whenever there's a squeeze, anytime when the squeeze pressure is going to be released, we see big price swings. We had one back near the end of 2023, and we had our second one near the end of 2024. Are we going to have something similar near the end of 2025? 3 years in a row. That's something very interesting to see when it happens. Like, you like really telling me that 3 consecutive years, sometime near the end of October, that happens? It's like the whales, the composite men, or whatever you call them, they are really driving this in a very consistent manner. Yeah, let's term it that way. I don't want to sound like too negative. Okay, so back to the percentages. So because the spring has happened, optimistically thinking, we hope to see a real like backup and last point of support period, and then eventually heading towards a new distribution cycle, much like what happened near the end, or like basically in November last year. That's why part of the percentage is a bit of hope that it repeats. And then obviously I also mentioned there was a prolonged accumulation. That's the other 20% chance. So if this 80% does not happen, then that would be just a sign of strength. And then what happens would be the price bounces back to the around this level, and then eventually comes back down for further tests. So we had the spring happened, but then there's still a chance, not 25, sorry, that should be 20. Okay, I need to refresh this. It's not responding. Yeah, now it is. Okay. So that's where the 20-80% goes. Because if this line continues to suppress the price movements, then it will absolutely comes down for further tests before it eventually gets to a level, or people get comfortable enough to break this line and just show us the sign of strength at least, and also the backup and last point of support eventually. So that's the big picture. We've got a squeeze happening, and then we're at a mid-late stage of the Wyckoff accumulation cycle, hoping towards heading towards a distribution. But then there's still risk of prolonged accumulation that can challenge the duration of what happened back in 2002-2003. So let's get to the daily chart and see what's going on. So we are in a squeeze for pretty long time already. There was not much of a big swing since we entered late July. So previously, when there was a squeeze from mid-June to somewhere in the end of first week of July, there was a bit of a little swing, but then you can tell, so flat period, swing, and then the swing gets smaller, and then this big squeeze period, you see the shade, this fake, very fake shade at the back, leads to a little bit of swing. Just that we're in another squeeze period, so expect more swings to come. That's the natural behavior when a Bollinger Band Keltner squeeze happens. So let's turn this off. We know we're expecting some wild movements. Like after this, I don't think people will be surprised. Previously we put in this tag. Unfortunately, it happened before even this period appears. So that's a lower level test, and we can definitely name this a spring in terms of Wyckoff terminology. So after the spring, technically speaking, that's, I would say, a failed backup. Or, yeah, we can just, I'll keep it for this session because that flat period is very tempting and really tricking people into maybe putting in like long positions like a fake bull situation, and then the real one may come afterwards. So let's put it over here. Another one, trial 2. And that's what we hope for after the spring, and then that eventually will lead to a preliminary supply. But obviously we already talked about there's still 20% chance for more tests. 20%. So that's to the upside. This is just bouncing, range bound basically. Similar to what I put in the weekly chart. So those are the expectations for what's going to come in the daily chart as well. So very, very similar, just a lot busier. And time frame, any time point. Not that if we are like in this big jaw, however, I am trying to see, or I'm seeing a potential downtrend over here that may be forming. So I'm sharing with you now. So let me turn this to something like this so it's easier. So the price has been leaning along this edge, hit to the ceiling, and then get to somewhere close to the bottom of the box and then bounce up to the ceiling again, and now it seems like it's going to challenge the ceiling once more. This is still an early stage, so I say this may be a downward channel, but it's not confirmed yet. If it does exist, there is a time point. You will notice this triangle, and the tip of the triangle here points to just 1 week from now, October 23rd. And I mentioned many times, the breakout doesn't happen at the exact angle. Sometimes it happens a few days earlier. As of this moment, this is tricky because the price is somewhat like hovering around this bottom edge of the triangle. If it remains above the white line and trades within this triangle, expect a breakout to happen within the next week, within the next few days basically, not even next week. So one point is, if it breaks outside of this downward channel, that's good news for the bulls, meaning the potential getting towards the distribution cycle, or at least a sign of strength, is getting higher. If it doesn't, meaning when it gets to this edge, it got rejected. Friday was a crazy situation, but then still, like, even Thursday it got rejected already when it got close to the ceiling. So it's multiple days that the price got rejection even before what happened on Friday. So it's not too surprising if the price got rejected again this time. So just that it's breaking below the white key level. So that, remember I mentioned this white key level is the center line of the long-term playground zone. So the meaning of that is the potential of challenging the red line once again is getting higher if that happens, if it breaks towards or breaks below this 0.018 level again. In history, it happened before. So if we look at what happened in 2023, the prolonged accumulation period, during January, it tried once, got down to the red, returned. June, it did a second time. August, the third time, and got rejected. Eventually, in late October, it successfully broke above and continued with the distribution cycle. So hopefully we don't have to take that long, and if it really follows the pattern in the past 2 years that we'll have a distribution cycle somewhere in November, then this may be the chance for it to exhibit a breakout in the next few days towards the upside, hopefully. But we're still not in November yet, so that's why it may follow this trend for a bit, and then there's an other time point over there that's getting us closer to November. That date, it's pointing towards the end of the month, somewhere around October 30th. And if it really breaks above this downward channel at that time point, that sounds too perfect, right? Right in the beginning of November, the climb continues once again after what happened back in 2023 and also 2024. Amazing, isn't it? The way that it repeats. So that's all for Vechain, and that's all for today for the time being. I'm planning some changes. I'm going to share again in the community post. So please keep an eye on the community post and feel free to share what you like and what you would like to see more. Thanks for joining me today.